I pretended to sleep as my daughter-in-law's fingers carefully lifted the papers from my nightstand. The bedroom door creaked. Footsteps. Then I heard her whisper to my son, "Got it. She's out cold." My heart pounded so hard I thought it would give me away. Because what she didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that those documents she was holding were worthless. The real will, and every single penny of my $3 million, was already gone. Let me back up. My name is Eleanor Hayes, and 3 months ago, I would have sworn on my late husband's grave that my family loved me. I'm 78 years old, a widow of 6 years, and I raised my son Marcus to be respectful, honest, and kind. Or so I thought. When he married Vanessa 4 years ago, I welcomed her with open arms. She was beautiful, charming, and seemed to adore my son. I helped them with the down payment on their house, $50,000. I never asked for it back. I watched their daughter, my granddaughter Lily, 3 days a week. I thought we were close. I thought I knew them. But looking back now, I should have seen the signs. Those little comments, those calculated smiles, the way Vanessa's eyes would flicker to my jewelry whenever she visited. My husband Richard and I built a good life together. He was a commercial real estate developer, and we invested wisely over 42 years of marriage. When he passed in 2019, he left me comfortable, very comfortable. The house in Riverside was paid off, worth about $800,000. I had investments, savings, his life insurance, and the sale of his business. All told, just over $3 million. At my age, I didn't need much. My needs were simple: a clean house, my garden, my book club on Thursdays, and my family. Marcus was our only child. We'd wanted more, but life had other plans, so we poured everything into him. Private schools, college without loans, his first car, his wedding. When he brought Vanessa home to meet us, Richard was already sick. Stage 4, pancreatic cancer. He died 3 months after their engagement. Vanessa seemed supportive during that dark time. She held my hand at the funeral. She helped me sort through Richard's belongings. She called me Mom almost immediately. "Mom, you shouldn't be alone right now," she'd say, showing up with casseroles and sympathy cards. "We're here for you." And I believed her. God help me, I believed every word. The first year after Richard died, I was lost in grief. I barely noticed when Vanessa started asking questions about my finances. Innocent questions, I thought. "Mom, do you have a financial advisor? Mom, have you updated your will since Dad passed? Mom, you should really think about estate planning." She was right, of course. I did need to update everything. Richard and I had an old will that left everything to each other, with Marcus as the sole beneficiary if we both passed. So I made an appointment with Thomas Bradford, the estate attorney Richard had used for years. I updated everything. Simple and clean. Marcus would inherit everything, with a trust established for Lily's education. $1 million set aside specifically for her college fund, protected until she turned 18. "Eleanor," Thomas had said, adjusting his glasses in that serious way attorneys do, "you might want to consider adding some protections. Spendthrift clauses, perhaps, or a staggered distribution." "Thomas, he's my son," I'd replied, maybe a little defensive. "I trust him completely." That was 2 years ago. If only I'd listened. The signs started small. About 18 months ago, Vanessa began dropping hints about moving. "This neighborhood is going downhill," she'd say over Sunday dinner. "We really need something bigger, more prestigious. For Lily's sake, you understand." My house was in a beautiful, quiet neighborhood. Older homes, mature trees, friendly neighbors I'd known for decades. But Vanessa had her eye on the new development across town. the one with the golf course and the country club, houses starting at 700,000. We'd ask for help, Marcus said one night, not quite meeting my eyes. But we don't want to burden you, Mom. I helped anyway. Another 30,000 for their down payment on the new house. They promised to pay me back. I'm still waiting. Then came the requests for babysitting, which I loved, don't get me wrong. Lily is my sunshine. 7 years old, with Richard's green eyes and my stubborn chin. But it went from 1 day a week to 3, then 4, then overnight stays, then entire weekends. We need couple time, Vanessa explained, touching up her lipstick in my hallway mirror before another night out. You understand, Mom. You and Richard had such a strong marriage. I never complained. I packed Lily's lunches, drove her to soccer practice, helped with homework, and bought her clothes when she outgrew things. I calculated once I was spending at least $1,000 a month on Lily's needs, plus my time. But she was my granddaughter. You don't keep score with family. Or at least you shouldn't have to. The real shift happened about 6 months ago. Vanessa started talking about my house. This place is too big for you, Mom, she'd say, walking through my rooms like an appraiser. All these stairs, what if you fell? And the maintenance. The yard work alone must be exhausting. I manage just fine, I'd reply, a little edge creeping into my voice. But for how long? She'd touch my arm, concern painted on her face like makeup. We worry about you. We really do. They started showing me brochures for active senior communities, assisted living facilities with names like Sunset Gardens and Golden Years Estates, places with activities directors and emergency pull cords in every room. Look at this one, Marcus said one Sunday, passing me a glossy folder. They have movie nights, card games. You'd make new friends. I have friends, I said. I have my home, the home your father and I bought, where we raised you. We know, Mom. Vanessa's smile was gentle, understanding, too understanding. But wouldn't it be nice not to worry about repairs, about the lawn, about being alone? I wasn't alone. I had my book club, my neighbors, my church group. I had a life. But they kept pushing, kept suggesting, kept leaving brochures on my kitchen counter. Little did I know, they weren't just worried about my living situation. They were planning for it. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday in April. I remember because it was the day before Lily's spring concert at school. I'd made her costume, a butterfly with wings I'd sewn from wire and organza. I was so proud of it. I'd driven to their house to drop off the costume. I had a key. They'd given me one for emergencies. I knocked first, always did, but got no answer. Their cars were in the driveway, so I let myself in. Hello? It's just me, I called out. Voices from the kitchen. I walked back, the butterfly wings in my arms, and stopped dead in the doorway. Marcus and Vanessa sat at their kitchen island, papers spread out before them. Financial documents. I could see the letterhead. It was from Thomas Bradford's office, my estate attorney. Mom! Marcus jumped up, his face flushing. We didn't hear you come in. What are you doing? I asked, though I could see exactly what they were doing. My will. They had copies of my will. Oh, Mom! Vanessa's recovery was smoother than my son's. She stood, smiling, calm. We were just reviewing your estate plan. Marcus asked Thomas for a copy, just to make sure everything's in order. You know, in case something happens. We want to be prepared to handle things properly. My hands tightened on the butterfly wings. You asked my attorney for my private documents? We're your family, Marcus said. And there was something in his tone I'd never heard before. Something that sounded almost like resentment. We need to know what your wishes are, what our responsibilities will be. You could have asked me. We didn't want to upset you, Vanessa interjected smoothly. These conversations are difficult. We're just trying to be responsible, to be good children. I set the butterfly wings down on the counter, my heart doing something strange in my chest, a kind of fluttering that had nothing to do with butterflies. My estate plan is my business, I said quietly. If I want you to know something, I'll tell you. See? Vanessa looked at Marcus. I told you she'd react like this. React like what? Like someone who valued privacy? Like someone who found it invasive that her family was going through her documents behind her back? We're not trying to upset you, Mom. Marcus's voice had that placating tone you'd use with a confused child. We love you. We just want to make sure you're taken care of, that everything's set up right. Thomas Bradford has been handling my affairs for 30 years. It's set up correctly. But things change, Vanessa said. Estate laws change. Tax laws change. When was the last time you updated anything? 2 years ago, right after your father died. They exchanged a look, a quick glance that I wasn't supposed to catch but did. And in that moment, something in my chest went cold. We should probably review it more regularly, Marcus said. Maybe quarterly, just to be safe. Quarterly? I stared at my son. Why on earth would I need to review my will quarterly? Another look between them, another secret conversation happening right in front of me. You're 78, Mom, Marcus said gently. Too gently. Things can change quickly at your age. We just want to be prepared. I left the butterfly wings and walked out. I didn't say goodbye. I sat in my car in their driveway for 10 minutes, my hands shaking on the steering wheel, trying to understand what I just witnessed. They were reviewing my will. They'd contacted my attorney. Had he given them copies? That didn't seem legal, but then Marcus was my beneficiary. Maybe he had rights I didn't understand. I drove home in a daze. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that look between them, that glance that said so much without saying anything at all. I told myself I was overreacting. They were just being responsible, prepared. That's what good children did, right? They made sure their parents' affairs were in order. But deep in my gut, in that place where mothers know things about their children, I felt something else, something darker. But that was just the beginning. After the incident with the will, I started paying attention, really paying attention. And once you start seeing things, you can't unsee them. The next week, Vanessa brought up the senior living facilities again. But this time, she had specific numbers. We drove by Meadowbrook Estates yesterday, she said, sitting at my kitchen table while I made Lily a snack. It's beautiful, Mom. Really beautiful. And surprisingly affordable. Only $4,000 a month. $4,000 a month? I nearly dropped the apple I was slicing. That's $48,000 a year. Well, yes, but think about what you're paying now. Property taxes on this place must be at least $8,000 a year. Plus maintenance, utilities, insurance. It probably comes out the same. It didn't. Not even close. But I didn't argue. I just listened. And the best part, Vanessa continued, leaning forward, is that you could sell this house and have all that equity freed up. You could travel, enjoy yourself, buy things you want instead of worrying about repairs and upkeep. I like my house, I said. Of course you do. It's full of memories. Her sympathy was as thick as honey. But Mom, be practical. You're alone here. It's too much space, too much responsibility. Wouldn't it be nice to simplify? Lily ran in then, saving me from responding. But I thought about that conversation for days. Vanessa had mentioned the equity in my house, the value that would be freed up. Freed up for what? For whom? The following Sunday, they came for dinner. I made pot roast, Marcus's favorite. Vanessa complimented everything, helped clear the table, laughed at my stories. She was the perfect daughter-in-law right up until I went upstairs to get Lily's sweater from the guest room. That's when I heard them in my study. I froze at the top of the stairs. My study door was open. I always kept it closed, and I could hear drawers opening, papers rustling. I walked quietly down the hall and peered around the doorframe. Marcus was at my desk, my private desk. He had the bottom drawer open, the one where I kept financial statements, tax returns, insurance policies. "Marcus?" My voice came out harder than I intended. "What are you doing?" He actually jumped, and slammed the drawer shut. "Mom!" I couldn't find a pen. "There are pens in the kitchen, on the counter, in the jar labeled pens." His face went red. "Right, sorry, I wasn't thinking. Clearly." We stared at each other. My son, my boy, the child I'd nursed through chickenpox and pneumonia, the teenager I'd waited up for on prom night, the man I danced with at his wedding, and I didn't recognize him. "I should go," he said. "Vanessa's probably wondering where I am." He brushed past me without meeting my eyes. That night, I checked my desk. Nothing was missing, as far as I could tell. But everything was slightly out of place. File folders not quite aligned. Papers not in the order I'd left them. Someone had been through my things. Someone had been thorough. The next morning, I called Thomas Bradford. "Thomas, this is Eleanor Hayes. I have a question about my will." "Of course, Eleanor. What can I help you with?" "Did Marcus contact you recently? Did he ask for copies of my estate documents?" There was a pause. A telling pause. "Eleanor, you know I can't discuss communications with other parties without your permission." "Thomas, he's not just any party. He's my son, and he told me he had copies of my will. Copies he got from you." Another pause. "Marcus did call me. He expressed concern about your memory. He said you'd been confused lately, forgetful. He wanted to make sure your affairs were in order and that he understood his responsibilities as executor." My hand tightened on the phone. "My memory is fine." "I know that, Eleanor." I told him the same thing. I did not send him copies of your documents. I told him if he had questions, he needed to discuss them with you directly. Relief flooded through me. "Thank you, Thomas." "Eleanor," his voice dropped, became more serious. "Is everything all right?" Marcus seemed very insistent, almost aggressive. "Everything's fine," I lied. "Just a misunderstanding." But it wasn't fine. Marcus had lied to me. He'd told me he had copies from Thomas, but Thomas hadn't given him anything, which meant the papers I'd seen on their kitchen island were copies they'd made themselves. From where? When? The answer came 2 days later. I'd stopped by their house again. I was picking up Lily for her dentist appointment. This time, I knew better than to walk in unannounced. I knocked, waited. Vanessa answered, already dressed to go out. "Oh, Mom, I forgot about the dentist. Can you take her? I have a hair appointment I can't miss." Of course she'd forgotten. Or maybe she'd never intended to remember. I took Lily to the dentist, then for ice cream afterward because she'd been so brave. When I dropped her back home, the house was empty. A note on the counter said they'd gone shopping, wouldn't be back until dinner. I meant to leave. I really did. But something made me stop. Some instinct I should have listened to months ago. I walked upstairs. Their bedroom door was open, and there, on Vanessa's vanity, partially hidden under a jewelry box, I saw papers. My papers. Copies of documents from my file cabinet at home. My hands shook as I picked them up. Bank statements, investment portfolios, insurance policies, my will, the original one from 2 years ago. All copied, all organized in a neat folder labeled Mom's Estate. How long had they been doing this? How many times had they been in my house, going through my things, copying my private documents? I took photos with my phone, every page, every document. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it. When I got home, I sat in my kitchen for an hour, staring at nothing, my mind racing. My son and daughter-in-law were building a file on me, on my assets, on my estate. Why? What were they planning? The answer came faster than I expected. 2 weeks later, Vanessa called. Her voice was thick with concern. "Mom, we need to talk. Can we come over tonight? After Lily goes to bed. It's important." They arrived at 8, both dressed nicely, Marcus in slacks and a button-down, Vanessa in a dress I'd never seen before. They sat across from me in my living room, and I saw it immediately. This was a performance, a rehearsed scene. "Mom," Marcus began, "we love you. You know that, right?" My stomach dropped. Nothing good ever followed that sentence. "We've been worried about you," Vanessa continued. "We've noticed changes. Small things, but concerning." "Changes?" I kept my voice level. "Your memory," Marcus said. "You forgot Lily's dentist appointment. Last month you missed book club. Karen called us, concerned. And you've been repeating stories lately, telling us the same things over and over. I had forgotten the dentist appointment, and I had missed book club because I'd had the flu. And yes, sometimes I repeated stories. I was 78. That was normal." "We think," Vanessa said softly, carefully, "that it might be time to consider getting you some help. Not full-time care, nothing like that. But maybe someone to check in on you. Make sure you're taking your medications correctly. Managing your bills." "I manage my bills perfectly well." "Mom!" Marcus's voice was so gentle, so loving, it made me want to scream. "We found bills in your mailbox from 2 months ago, unopened. What if you'd forgotten to pay something important?" That was a lie, an absolute lie. I checked my mail every day. I paid every bill on time, usually online, but always on time. "I think you're mistaken," I said. "We're not trying to upset you," Vanessa interjected. "We're trying to help. And we've been thinking, maybe it would be good for you to give Marcus power of attorney, just for financial matters, just in case, so that if something happens, if you're in the hospital or unable to make decisions, we can take care of things for you." There it was, the real reason for this visit. They wanted power of attorney. They wanted control of my money. "I'll think about it," I said, because I didn't know what else to say. "Sooner is better than later," Marcus pressed. "These things take time to set up properly, and if you wait until you really need it, it might be too late." They left me with brochures, information about elder care, power of attorney forms already filled out, just waiting for my signature. I sat up all night, those forms on my coffee table, untouched, and I realized something terrifying. They were building a case, a narrative, that I was declining, forgetful, unable to manage my own affairs. They were creating a story that would justify taking control. Little did I know, the worst was yet to come. The morning of May 15th started like any other morning. I woke up at 6, made my coffee, and read the newspaper at my kitchen table like I'd done for 40 years. The sun was coming through the windows, warm and golden. It should have been a beautiful day. Instead, it became the day I lost my son. Marcus called at 7:30. "Mom, can we stop by this morning? Vanessa and I need to discuss something with you. It's important." They arrived at 9, but this time they weren't alone. They brought a man in a gray suit carrying a briefcase. My first thought was they'd brought a lawyer. My second thought was worse. They'd brought a doctor. "Mom, this is Dr. Harrison Chen," Vanessa said, her voice dripping with false warmth. He's a geriatric specialist. We've told him about our concerns, and he's agreed to do an informal assessment, just to ease our minds. I didn't agree to any assessment, I said, still standing in my doorway, not letting them in. It's just a conversation, Dr. Chen said kindly. He had gentle eyes, the kind that probably put his real patients at ease. Your family is concerned about you. They love you very much. Let's just talk. I should have slammed the door. I should have called my own doctor, my own lawyer. But I was raised to be polite, to be accommodating, so I let them in. And that was my mistake. Dr. Chen asked me questions for an hour. What year was it? Who was the president? Could I count backward from 100 by sevens? Could I remember 3 words he told me, then repeat them 5 minutes later? It was humiliating, infantilizing, and I answered every question correctly. Mrs. Hayes, Dr. Chen said finally, you're doing very well. I don't see signs of dementia or serious cognitive decline. Some age-appropriate forgetfulness, perhaps, but that's normal. I watched Marcus's face fall. Actually fall. He'd been hoping for a different answer. But doctor, Vanessa interjected quickly, what about the things we told you? The repeated stories, the forgotten appointments? Dr. Chen smiled patiently. Mrs. Hayes seems quite sharp to me. Perhaps you're worried unnecessarily. They showed him out. I hoped this would be the end of it, that they'd accept the doctor's assessment and leave me alone. Instead, things got worse. That night, I woke up at 2 a.m. Something had woken me, a sound, a feeling, I wasn't sure. My bedroom door was open. I always closed it before bed. Always. I lay very still, listening. Footsteps. Someone was in my house. My heart hammered against my ribs. I reached slowly for my phone on the nightstand. That's when I heard the voice. She's asleep. The light's off. Marcus. That was Marcus's voice, whispered from somewhere downstairs. Are you sure? What if she wakes up? Vanessa's voice also whispering. She took her sleeping medication. You saw her take it. She'll be out for hours. My sleeping medication. The melatonin Vanessa had insisted I start taking. It'll help you sleep better, Mom. You said you've been having trouble. I hadn't said that. But she'd brought me the bottle anyway. I'd taken one that night because she'd watched me, handed me a glass of water, waited while I swallowed. I slid out of bed silently, my bare feet on the hardwood floor. My bedroom window overlooked the driveway. Their car was parked there, barely visible in the darkness. I crept to my door and peered out into the hallway. A light was on in my study. My study, where I kept all my important documents. Every instinct screamed at me to confront them, to turn on the lights and demand to know what they were doing. But something, maybe fear, maybe curiosity, maybe some survival instinct I didn't know I had, made me stay hidden. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. My legs were shaking. My whole body was shaking. Finally, footsteps on the stairs. I dove back into bed, pulled the covers up, closed my eyes. My bedroom door was still open. I'd have to pretend I'd left it that way. The footsteps came closer, stopped in my doorway. I could feel someone watching me, making sure I was asleep. I kept my breathing deep and even, the way you breathe when you're truly unconscious. The footsteps retreated. The bedroom door closed softly. More whispers from the hallway, too quiet to make out. Then the sound of the front door opening and closing. An engine starting. The car driving away. I waited another 10 minutes before I got up. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely turn on the lights. I went to my study. Papers were scattered across my desk, papers I'd left neatly filed. My file cabinet was open. The drawer where I kept my will, my financial documents, my passwords and account numbers. Everything had been rifled through, examined. And on my desk, I saw it. a stack of papers held together with a paperclip. My will. But something was wrong. The pages looked different, newer. I picked them up and read. This wasn't my will. This was a new will, a forged will, with my name signed at the bottom. The signature wasn't quite right. The loops in the E were wrong. The slant was off. But it was close, too close. My hands trembled as I read the changes. Everything, my entire estate, was left to Marcus, with no trust for Lily, no protections, no conditions, everything immediately his upon my death. And there was something else, a clause about what would happen if I became incapacitated or mentally incompetent. In that case, Marcus would become my guardian. He would control everything, my money, my house, my life. They'd drugged me. They'd snuck into my house in the middle of the night. They'd created a fake will to replace my real one, and they'd almost gotten away with it. I sat there until dawn, that forged will in my hands, trying to understand how I'd gotten here, how my son, the boy I'd raised, loved, sacrificed everything for, had become someone capable of this. The morning light came through the windows, and with it, a terrible clarity. They weren't going to stop. This wasn't about concern or care. This was about money. My money. They wanted it now, and they weren't willing to wait for nature to take its course. I thought about that assessment yesterday. How disappointed Marcus had looked when the doctor said I was fine. He'd wanted a different diagnosis, a diagnosis that would let them declare me incompetent, take control legally. And when that didn't work, they decided to do it illegally. My phone rang at 7:30. Marcus, like clockwork. "Mornin', Mom. Just checking on you. How'd you sleep?" "Fine," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I slept very well." "Good, good. That melatonin is helping then. You should keep taking it." "I bet I should," I thought. "I bet you'd love it if I kept taking whatever you're actually giving me." "Listen, Mom, Vanessa and I were thinking. We should go ahead and get that power of attorney set up. We've been researching, and it really is important. Can we swing by later today? We found a notary who makes house calls." "I'm busy today," I lied. "Tomorrow then?" "It's really important, Mom. We need to get this done." I heard it in his voice, the urgency, the pressure. They were scared. The doctor's assessment hadn't worked, so now they needed a different approach. Legal control before I figured out what they were doing. Too late. I'd already figured it out. "Sure," I said. "Tomorrow is fine." "Great. We'll come by at 10. The notary will be with us." I hung up and looked at the forged will still on my desk. They'd made a critical mistake. They'd left it here, probably planning to come back and discover it later, make it look like I'd changed my will myself and forgotten about it. That's when I knew exactly what I had to do. What they didn't know, what they couldn't have known, was that I'd been preparing for something like this for months. Not this exactly. I'd never imagined my own son would drug me and forge my will. But I'd noticed the patterns, the questions about my finances, the pressure to move, the narrative they were building about my declining memory. And I'd started taking precautions. 3 months ago, after finding those copied documents at their house, I'd made an appointment with Thomas Bradford. Not the quick phone call I'd mentioned earlier. A real appointment. A long one. "Thomas," I'd said, sitting across from his massive desk, "I need to make some changes. And I need to make them quietly." Thomas had listened while I explained my concerns. The questions from Marcus and Vanessa, the copies of documents, the pressure for power of attorney. He'd listened without interrupting, his face growing grimmer with each detail. "Eleanor," he'd said finally, "what you're describing sounds like financial elder abuse. It's more common than people think. and it's usually family members. The words had hurt, but they'd also validated what I'd been feeling. I want to protect myself, I'd said, legally, financially, all of it. Over the next 2 weeks, Thomas and I had worked together. We'd created a new will, a real one, properly executed, witnessed, and filed. This will was different. It still left everything to Marcus, but with conditions, protections. He'd receive monthly distributions, not a lump sum. The house would go into a trust. Lily's college fund was ironclad, untouchable by anyone but her. But we'd gone further than that. I want to move my assets, I'd told Thomas. All of them. I want them somewhere Marcus and Vanessa can't find them, can't access, can't even know about. Thomas had introduced me to his colleague, Sarah Chen, an estate planner who specialized in asset protection. Sarah looked about 40, sharp-eyed and brilliant, and she'd understood immediately what I needed. We'll create a new entity, Sarah had explained, a family trust. Everything will go into the trust, your house, your investments, your bank accounts. You'll be the trustee. You'll have complete control. But on paper, technically, Eleanor Hayes won't own anything anymore. The trust will. Can they access it? I'd asked. If they somehow get power of attorney? Not if we do this right. Power of attorney only covers assets in your personal name. Assets in a properly structured trust are separate, protected. We'd worked fast. Within a week, everything had been transferred. My house was deeded to the Hayes Family Trust. My investment accounts, my savings, everything. All moved, all protected. I'd opened new accounts at a different bank. One Marcus and Vanessa had never heard of. I'd changed all my passwords. I'd set up alerts on my credit report. I'd even bought a small safe, installed it in my closet behind my winter coats, where I kept the real documents. The papers in my study, the ones Marcus and Vanessa had been copying, had been examining for months. Those were old, outdated. Some of them were from before Richard died. Others were statements for accounts I'd closed. I'd left them there deliberately. Bait. If they wanted to know about my finances, they could look at papers that told them nothing. But I'd made one more move, the most important one. 2 weeks before that night, they'd drugged me. I'd transferred $3 million, every liquid asset I had, to a new account at Riverside Private Banking. An account Marcus and Vanessa didn't know existed. An account that required 2 forms of ID, a password, and biometric verification to access. The house was still mine, technically still in the trust, but worth about $800,000. If they somehow got control of me, got me declared incompetent, took over as guardians, they might eventually access that equity. But the $3 million, the investments, the savings that Richard and I had spent a lifetime building, that was gone, protected, untouchable, and they had no idea. The morning after they'd broken into my house, after I'd found the forged will, I'd called Sarah Chen. Sarah, they made their move. I need to make mine. We met at her office that afternoon. I brought the forged will, carefully sealed in a plastic bag. Evidence. This is criminal, Sarah said, examining it. Forgery, fraud, possibly elder abuse. I know. But I don't want to prosecute them, not yet. I just want to protect myself. Eleanor, you should go to the police. He's my son, I said, and my voice broke on those words. He's my son, and I still love him, even though he's doing this. I don't want to destroy his life. I just want him to stop. Sarah had looked at me with something like pity, but she'd nodded. Okay, let's make sure they can't hurt you. Then you decide what happens next. We'd made more changes, more protections. Sarah had contacted Thomas, and together they'd created what Sarah called a dead man's switch. If anything happened to me, if I died suddenly, if I was declared incompetent, If I disappeared, certain documents would automatically be sent to the police, to Marcus's employer, to the State Bar Association, since Marcus worked as a paralegal, the forged will, records of my transfers, documentation of every suspicious action. They won't be able to touch you, Sarah had said, and if they try, they'll face serious consequences. I'd also done something else, something I hadn't told anyone about, not even Sarah or Thomas. I'd installed cameras, tiny ones, the kind you can barely see. One in my study, aimed at my desk. One in my bedroom, in the smoke detector. One in the hallway. Everything was recorded, uploaded automatically to cloud storage. If they came back, if they tried anything else, I'd have proof. The next morning, when Marcus called to confirm their 10 o'clock appointment with the notary, I was ready. Actually, Marcus, I've been thinking about that power of attorney. I'd like to have my attorney there when we do it, just to make sure everything's done properly. Pause. A long pause. Your attorney? Is that really necessary, Mom? I think it is. For everyone's protection. You don't mind, do you? No, of course not. It's just, notaries are qualified to witness these things. We don't need to pay an attorney. I'm happy to pay. I'd feel more comfortable having Thomas there. Another pause. I could practically hear them panicking. Having Thomas there meant they couldn't pressure me into signing anything problematic. Couldn't slip in clauses I didn't understand. Couldn't rush me through documents. Let me talk to Vanessa, Marcus said finally. I'll call you back. He didn't call back. Instead, Vanessa showed up at my door that afternoon, all concern and sweetness. Mom, Marcus told me about tomorrow. Of course, you should have your attorney there if that makes you comfortable. But I'm wondering, is there something wrong? Are you upset with us? Should I be upset? Her eyes widened. Perfect innocence. Of course not. We love you. We're just trying to help. Help with what, exactly? With managing everything. It's so much for you to handle alone. The house, the finances, all the decisions. We want to make your life easier. My life is easy, I said. I'm managing just fine. But for how long? And there it was. The question they kept asking. The implication that my competence had an expiration date, and they were watching the clock. Vanessa, I said, looking her directly in the eyes, I don't need help. I don't want to move. I don't want to give anyone power of attorney. I appreciate your concern, but I'm fine. Truly fine. Her smile hardened just slightly, just enough for me to see the real person underneath. We'll see, she said. We just want what's best for you, Mom. Even if you can't see that right now. She left, and I knew with absolute certainty that this wasn't over. They weren't going to give up. They'd invested too much time, built too elaborate a plan. They needed my money, and they weren't going to walk away. But what they didn't know was that I'd already won. The money was gone. The assets were protected. They could forge all the wills they wanted, could drug me and search my house every night for a year, and they'd never find what they were looking for. Because I'd moved it all while they were still planning, while they were still building their case, still gathering their evidence, still convinced that I was just a confused old woman they could manipulate. I'd moved the $3 million, and I'd left just enough breadcrumbs for them to follow, just enough information in those old papers for them to think they knew what I had and where it was. They were hunting for treasure that no longer existed, and soon, very soon, they were going to realize it. That's when things would get really interesting. The confrontation I'd been preparing for came 3 days later, but it didn't come from me. It came from them. Marcus and Vanessa showed up at my door at 8 in the morning. No phone call, no warning. Marcus's face was flushed, and Vanessa's perfect composure had cracked. "We need to talk," Marcus said, pushing past me into my house. Now. I'd been expecting this. I stayed calm. "Good morning to you too." "Don't," he snapped, whirling around. "Don't act innocent." "What did you do?" "I'm going to need more information than that, Marcus." "The money!" Vanessa's voice was shrill, her carefully cultivated sweetness completely gone. "Your accounts." We checked. "They're empty. All of them." "How exactly did you check my accounts?" I asked mildly, though my heart was racing. "Those are private. I'm your son. I have a right to know what's going on." "Actually, you don't. Those are my accounts, my money, my business." "Where is it?" Marcus demanded. "Where did you move it?" I walked to my kitchen, put the kettle on for tea. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice steady. "I'm not sure what you're talking about." "The accounts at First National," Vanessa said, following me. The ones you've had for 20 years. They're closed. All of them." "Oh, those." I got a mug from the cupboard. "I moved to a different bank. Better interest rates." "What bank?" Marcus's voice was rising. "What account numbers?" "We need to know." "Why?" The question hung in the air. Why did they need to know? What possible legitimate reason could they have for demanding access to my private financial information? "Because we're handling your affairs," Vanessa said, as if it were obvious. "We need to make sure everything's being managed correctly." "I didn't ask you to handle my affairs. I'm perfectly capable of handling them myself." "Are you?" Marcus stepped closer, and for the first time in my life, I felt slightly afraid of my own son. "Are you really capable? Because from where we're standing, closing all your accounts and moving money around seems like confused behavior. Erratic. The kind of thing someone with declining mental capacity would do." There it was. The narrative they'd been building. I was confused. Erratic. Not capable of managing my own affairs. I closed my accounts and opened new ones because someone had been accessing them without my permission, I said quietly. Someone had been tracking my spending, monitoring my balances, and I wanted that to stop. "We were just making sure you were okay," Vanessa's voice cracked. "That you weren't being scammed, that you weren't making poor decisions. The only people scamming me were you." Silence. Dead silence. The kettle started whistling, but nobody moved. "That's ridiculous," Marcus finally said. "We love you. Everything we've done has been for your benefit." "Really? Breaking into my house while I sleep was for my benefit? Drugging me? Forging my will?" Marcus went white, completely white. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't you?" I turned off the kettle. My voice was calm now, eerily calm. "The night of May 15th, you gave me melatonin. Except it wasn't melatonin, was it? It was something stronger, something that would keep me asleep while you came into my house and went through my study." "You're confused," Vanessa said, but her voice was weak. "That didn't happen." "It did. And I have proof." I pulled out my phone, opened the app connected to my security cameras. "Would you like to see?" I turned the screen toward them. The video was clear, the timestamp visible. Marcus and Vanessa entering my house at 2:07 a.m., going to my study, rifling through my papers, and then the money shot. Vanessa holding up a document, my will, and photographing it with her phone. "That's illegal," Marcus said weakly. "Recording people who break into my house?" "I don't think so. But you know what is illegal? Forgery, breaking and entering, elder abuse, financial exploitation. Shall I continue?" They stared at me like they'd never seen me before, like I'd transformed from a confused old woman into someone else entirely. I also have the will you created, I continued, the fake one you left on my desk. The one with my forged signature. I've had it examined by a handwriting expert. It's definitely not my signature. Would you like to explain that? Mom? Marcus's voice was pleading now, desperate. Mom, we can explain. We were trying to help. We thought... You thought I was too confused to notice. Too trusting to question you. Too old to fight back. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Please, explain to me how drugging me, breaking into my house, and forging legal documents was helping me. Vanessa recovered first. She always was the smarter one. Fine. You want the truth? You're sitting on millions of dollars, living alone in this huge house, and you won't do anything with it. You won't help us when we need it. You won't plan for the future. You're being selfish. Selfish? The word came out like a laugh. I gave you $50,000 for your first house. Another $30,000 for the second. I watch Lily constantly. I probably spend $1,000 a month on her. I helped pay for your wedding, your honeymoon, your car repairs. How exactly am I selfish? It's not enough, Marcus said. And there was raw honesty in those words. Maybe the first honest thing he'd said in months. It's never enough. You have $3 million and you're going to die with it. Just sitting in accounts, not being used. While we're struggling with our mortgage, with bills, with trying to give Lily a good life. So you decided to take it. We decided to make sure it was used properly, while you're alive, not after you're dead. By drugging me and forging documents. We didn't drug you, Vanessa insisted. It was just melatonin. And the will. We were going to show it to you. Get you to sign it properly. We just wanted to see what it would look like. Lie after lie after lie. And the sad thing was, they actually seemed to believe them. They'd rationalized everything so completely that they couldn't see the truth. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to leave. You're going to stop asking about my money. You're going to stop coming into my house uninvited. You're going to stop this campaign to make me seem confused or incompetent. And in return, I won't go to the police. You can't prove anything, Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. I have video. I have the forged will. I have documentation of every time you've accessed my accounts. I have your fingerprints all over my study. I have enough evidence to have you both arrested for elder abuse, which is a felony. Is that what you want? They looked at each other, a whole conversation happening without words. If you go to the police, Vanessa said slowly, Marcus will lose his job, his paralegal license, everything. I know. He's your son. I know that too, which is why I'm giving you a choice. Leave me alone, and I'll let this go. Keep pushing, and I'll file charges. What about the money? Marcus asked. Our inheritance? There's still a will. When I die, you'll inherit, but on my terms, with protections, distributions over time, not everything at once. How much? Vanessa's voice was sharp. How much will we get? And there it was. Not concern about me, not apologies for what they'd done, just cold calculation about money. That depends, I said, on how you behave from now on. My will has a clause. If you contest it, if you challenge it in any way, you get nothing, zero. Everything goes to charity. It's ironclad. Thomas Bradford made sure of that. You can't do that, Marcus said. I already did. 3 months ago, while you were busy copying my old documents and making your plans. I watched understanding dawn on their faces. They'd been played, outsmarted by the confused old woman they'd been so sure they could manipulate. "Now get out of my house," I said quietly. "And don't come back unless you're invited." Vanessa grabbed Marcus's arm. "Come on, let's go." "Mom," Marcus started, but I held up my hand. "Don't. Whatever you were going to say, don't. Not right now. I'm too angry and you're too caught. Maybe someday we can talk about this, but not today." They left. I watched from my window as they sat in their car for 10 minutes, arguing. Vanessa was gesturing wildly. Marcus had his head in his hands. Finally, they drove away. I locked my door, double-checked it. Then I sat down and let myself cry. Because I'd won. I'd protected myself, my assets, my future. But I'd lost my son. And no amount of money could fix that. I thought that would be the end. I really did. But 3 days later, I got a call from Thomas Bradford. "Eleanor, we have a problem. Marcus and Vanessa have retained an attorney. They're filing a petition to have you declared incompetent." My stomach dropped. "On what grounds?" "They're claiming you're exhibiting signs of dementia, paranoia, that you've made irrational financial decisions. They have statements from people who claim you've been forgetful, confused, unable to manage basic tasks." "What people?" "I don't have names yet. But Eleanor, this is serious. If they can convince a judge, you could lose control of everything. Even assets in a trust can be challenged if the trustee is deemed incompetent." "But I'm not incompetent. We had me assessed. Dr. Chen said I was fine. They have a different doctor. Someone who's willing to say you need supervision based on your family's testimony." Of course they did. They'd found a doctor they could buy, or lie to, or convince with their carefully crafted narrative of the confused, declining mother who needed intervention. What do? We fight. We document your competency. We get your medical records. We show that you're managing your life perfectly well. But Eleanor, it's going to be public. It's going to be ugly. That night, I couldn't sleep. I'd tried to handle this privately, to protect Marcus despite what he'd done, and he'd responded by escalating, by trying to have me declared legally incompetent, by attempting to take control through the courts. The next morning I made a decision. If Marcus wanted a public fight, he'd get one. But he wouldn't like how it ended. I called Thomas, set up a meeting. Marcus, Vanessa, their attorney, you and me, tomorrow if possible. Eleanor, you don't have to meet with them. We can handle this through legal channels. I want to face them, one last time, with witnesses. Thomas arranged it for the following afternoon at his office. Marcus and Vanessa arrived with their attorney, a sharp-looking woman named Patricia Rodriguez. She had the air of someone who thought this would be easy money, a confused old woman, probably with legitimate concerns from her caring family. We sat around Thomas's conference table. Marcus wouldn't meet my eyes. Vanessa sat rigid, her hands folded on the table like she was at a business meeting. "Mrs. Hayes," Patricia began, "my clients are deeply concerned about you. They love you, and they only want what's best." "Let me stop you right there," I said. "Before this goes any further, I want everyone to see something." I opened my laptop. Thomas had helped me prepare this presentation. I pulled up the first video, Marcus and Vanessa breaking into my house at 2 a.m. "This is footage from May 15th, I said. "That's my son and daughter-in-law entering my home without permission while I was unconscious. They'd given me what they claimed was melatonin. Notice how they go directly to my study." I clicked to the next video. "Here they are going through my desk, my private files, and here," I paused the video on a clear shot, "is Vanessa holding up my will and photographing it." Patricia's face had gone pale. "Mrs. Hayes, I wasn't informed of any of this." "I'm sure you weren't. Let me show you what else you weren't informed of." I pulled out the forged will, now in a protective sleeve. This document was left on my desk that night. "It's a forgery. You can see my signature has been copied, but poorly. I've had it examined by a handwriting expert. The report is in your folder." I slid folders across the table, one for Patricia, one for Marcus and Vanessa. You'll also find bank records showing unauthorized access attempts to my accounts. Records of them requesting copies of my estate documents from my attorney without my knowledge. And statements from my actual doctor, not the one you paid to say I was incompetent, confirming that I have no cognitive decline. Patricia was flipping through the folder, her expression growing grimmer with each page. "Mrs. Rodriguez," I said, looking directly at her, "I'm 78 years old, but I'm not confused. I'm not paranoid. I'm not suffering from dementia. What I am is a victim of financial elder abuse by my own son and daughter-in-law." "Mom, please," Marcus started, but Patricia held up her hand. "Don't say anything," she told him sharply. Then to me, "Mrs. Hayes, if I'd known about any of this, I would never have taken this case. I know. That's why I wanted you to see it. They've been lying to you the same way they've been lying to everyone else, building a narrative that I'm declining, that I need help, that they're the caring family members just trying to protect me. But the truth is, they want my money, and they're willing to do anything to get it." I turned to Marcus. Finally, he looked at me, really looked at me. "I gave you everything," I said, and my voice cracked. "Your father and I sacrificed so much to give you a good life. Education, opportunities, love, unconditional love. And this is how you repay me? By drugging me, by forging documents, by trying to have me declared incompetent so you can steal from me?" "We weren't stealing," Vanessa said. You were just what? Taking what you thought was yours before I died? That's still theft, Vanessa, and it's still elder abuse, which, in this state, is a felony." Patricia closed the folder. "Mr. and Mrs. Hayes, I'm withdrawing from this case effective immediately, and I strongly suggest you retain a criminal defense attorney instead of a probate attorney." "What? Why?" Vanessa's voice was shrill. "Because what you've described to me as concerned children helping their mother is actually documented elder abuse, breaking and entering, and forgery. Mrs. Hayes has enough evidence here to have you both arrested. If I were you, I'd be apologizing, not filing petitions." Patricia stood up. "Mrs. Hayes, I'm sorry you were put through this. Thomas, I'll send over the withdrawal notice by end of day." She left. It was just the four of us now, me, Thomas, Marcus, and Vanessa. "So what now?" she asked bitterly. "You call the police? Ruin our lives?" "That depends on you," I said. I meant what I said before. "Leave me alone, and I won't press charges. Stop this campaign. Stop trying to control my life. Stop treating me like an obstacle to your inheritance." "And if we don't?" Marcus asked quietly. "Then I go to the police with everything. The videos, the forged will, the records of unauthorized access, and I change my will to leave everything to charity. You'll get nothing, and you'll likely face criminal charges." "You'd really do that to your own son? You'd really drug your own mother?" I shot back. "We all have choices, Marcus. I'm giving you one last chance to make the right one." Vanessa stood up abruptly. "This is insane. Come on, Marcus. Let's go." But Marcus didn't move. He sat there staring at his hands. "I'm sorry," he said finally, so quietly I almost didn't hear him. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. We needed money. The house payment is so high. Vanessa's car, Lily's private school. It all kept piling up, and you had so much, and we thought—" "You thought you deserved it more than I did." "No, maybe. I don't know." He looked up at me, and I saw tears in his eyes. "I love you, Mom. I really do, But Vanessa kept saying, "Don't blame her," I said. "You made your own choices. You're a grown man. You chose to go along with this." "I know." He wiped his eyes. "I know, and I'll have to live with that. But I am sorry, truly. I wanted to believe him. Part of me did believe him. But trust once broken doesn't repair easily." "Then prove it," I said. "Stop this petition. Respect my boundaries. Respect my decisions. And maybe someday we can rebuild what we had." Marcus nodded. "Okay, I'll stop it. Today." Vanessa grabbed his arm. "Marcus, you can't be serious. After everything we've planned, it's over, Vanessa." He stood up, shaking off her hand. "It's over. We lost. She won. And honestly, she had every right to win." They left together, but separately somehow. The space between them felt vast. Thomas and I sat in silence for a long moment. "You did well," he said finally. "That took courage." "It took desperation," I corrected, "and a lot of help from you." "What will you do now?" "Live my life. On my terms." The petition was withdrawn the next day. Marcus's attorney filed the paperwork, and it was done. No court hearing, no public spectacle, just done. 2 weeks passed without a word from Marcus or Vanessa. No calls, no visits. Lily's 8th birthday came and went. I sent a gift card in the mail, but I didn't go to the party. I wasn't invited. That hurt more than I expected. I missed Lily, missed her laughter, her hugs, her endless questions about everything. But I couldn't trust her parents, and I couldn't pretend nothing had happened. My friends noticed the change. At book club, Karen asked where Marcus was. "We're taking a break from each other," I said, which was the understatement of the century. "Family troubles?" she asked sympathetically. "Something like that." I didn't tell them the details. Some shame runs too deep to share, even with friends. The shame of knowing your own child would drug you, would steal from you, would try to have you declared incompetent for money. But life went on. I tended my garden. I read my books. I had dinner with my neighbor Margaret twice a week. I even joined a watercolor class at the community center, something I'd always wanted to try but never had time for. The money sat safe in its new accounts. The $3 million Marcus and Vanessa had been so desperate to access. I looked at the statements sometimes and wondered what it was all for. You can't take it with you, as they say, but you also shouldn't have it taken from you before you're ready to go. 3 months after the confrontation in Thomas's office, I got a letter, handwritten, from Marcus. No return address, but I recognized his handwriting immediately. "Dear Mom, I've been seeing a therapist. Vanessa and I both have. We're trying to understand how we got to where we did, how I could do what I did to you. The therapist says I felt entitled, that I'd been raised with so much, private school, college paid for, help with everything, that I started to see your money as partially mine, as something I was owed, not something I should be grateful for. I'm not making excuses. What we did was wrong, criminal, unforgivable. Vanessa and I are separated, not divorced yet, but living apart. She's with her mother. I'm in an apartment. We're figuring out what comes next. I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I miss you. Lily misses you. She asks about Grandma all the time. She doesn't understand why you don't come over anymore. I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not sure I've forgiven myself. But I wanted you to know that I'm working on becoming someone who deserves to be in your life again, even if it takes years, even if it never happens. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry I forgot to show it. Marcus." I read that letter a dozen times, cried over it. Then I put it in a drawer and didn't respond. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I wasn't ready. A month later, another letter came. This one from Vanessa. "Eleanor, I owe you an apology. A real one. I won't insult you by making excuses. I wanted your money. I felt like you were hoarding it, living modestly while sitting on millions. It seemed wasteful, selfish even. But it wasn't my money. It wasn't my business. And what we did, was unconscionable. Marcus and I are done. The marriage is over. I'm moving back to California with Lily. I've already filed for divorce. You were always kind to me, more generous than my own mother, and I repaid you by plotting to steal from you. I'll carry that shame for the rest of my life. I know you probably won't believe this, but I do love Marcus. I thought I was helping us, helping our family. I didn't see it as elder abuse or theft. I saw it as taking what would eventually be ours anyway, speeding up the inevitable. That doesn't make it right. It just makes me delusional as well as criminal. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just saying I'm sorry, and that you were right to protect yourself, right to fight back, right to win. Vanessa. 2 letters. 2 very different apologies. Both too little, too late. But Marcus was going to therapy. He was taking responsibility. And he'd left Vanessa. Or she'd left him. I wasn't sure it mattered. I called him 2 weeks after the second letter arrived. He answered on the first ring. Mom. Hello, Marcus. Silence. Then, I didn't think you'd call. I wasn't sure I would either. More silence. Finally, how are you? I'm fine. Managing. How's Lily? She's good. Adjusting to the separation. Vanessa's moving to California at the end of the month. I heard. Are you going too? No, I can't leave. My job's here, my life, and honestly, I need to stay close to you, even if you never want to see me again. I need to be nearby, in case you change your mind. My throat tightened. I got your letter. I meant every word. I know. Another long pause. Then, could I bring Lily to see you? Just for an hour? She misses you so much. She made you a drawing. It's been on her dresser for weeks, waiting to give to you. I thought about saying no, about protecting myself from more hurt. But Lily was innocent in all this. She didn't deserve to lose her grandmother because her parents were criminals. Yes, I said. Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock. Just you and Lily. Thank you, Mom. Thank you. Saturday came. I baked cookies, Lily's favorites, chocolate chip with extra chips. I set out milk. I tried not to be nervous. They arrived exactly at 2. Lily burst through the door and hugged me so hard I nearly fell over. Grandma, I missed you so much. Where have you been? I've been right here, sweetheart. Just busy. Marcus stood in the doorway, uncertain. Can I come in? For a little while, we sat in the living room, Lily between us, chattering about school and her friends, and the new kitten Vanessa had gotten her. Marcus and I didn't talk much. We just watched her, this beautiful child who was the best thing either of us had ever been part of creating. When it was time to go, Lily hugged me again. Can I come back next week? We'll see, honey. Marcus lingered at the door. Thank you for this. I did it for Lily. I know, but still, thank you. They left. I stood at the window and watched them drive away, and I realized something. I hadn't forgiven Marcus. Maybe I never would completely, but I was willing to try rebuilding, slowly, carefully, with boundaries firmly in place. Because at the end of the day, he was still my son, and Lily was still my granddaughter, and life was too short to spend it entirely angry, even if the anger was justified. I'm 80 years old now. It's been 2 years since Marcus and Vanessa tried to steal from me. 2 years since I discovered what my son was capable of. 2 years since I fought back and won. Marcus and I have rebuilt something. Not what we had before. That trust is gone forever, but something new, smaller, more careful. He comes for dinner once a month. He calls every Sunday. He's paying off his debts, downsized to a smaller house, and actually seems happier. Vanessa and I don't speak. She's remarried in California. Lily visits me during school breaks. Just her, no parents. She's 10 now, smart and funny and kind. Nothing like what her parents almost became. My money is still protected, still safe in accounts they can't touch. I've rewritten my will again. Lily gets more, Marcus gets less, but enough. And there are charities, lots of charities. The money will do good in the world, whether I'm here to see it or not. If there's one thing I want you to remember from my story, it's this. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it probably is. I spent months ignoring the signs, making excuses, telling myself I was being paranoid. But I wasn't. My gut knew what my heart didn't want to accept. And protect yourself. I know that sounds cold, especially when it comes to family. We're taught that family is everything, that blood is thicker than water, that you always forgive your children. But sometimes family is the greatest danger. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you most are the ones who will hurt you worst. That doesn't make you a bad person for protecting yourself. It makes you smart. Survival isn't selfish, it's necessary. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought. At 78, facing down my own son in a legal battle, I could have folded. Could have given them what they wanted just to keep the peace. But I didn't. I fought. And I won. Not because I'm naturally brave or confident, but because I decided I deserved better than to be drugged and robbed by my own family. You deserve better too. Whatever you're going through, whoever is trying to take advantage of you, you deserve to fight back, to protect yourself, to say no, even if it costs you relationships, even if it makes people angry, even if it breaks your heart. Because in the end, you have to live with yourself, and I can live with the choices I made. I protected myself, my assets, and my dignity. I gave Marcus a chance to redeem himself, and he's trying. That's more than many people get. The money doesn't matter as much as I thought it would. What matters is that I stood up for myself, that I didn't let them win, that I proved to myself most of all that being old doesn't mean being helpless. At my age, I've learned that life is complicated, that people you love can hurt you, that forgiveness is possible, but trust might not be, that protecting yourself isn't the same as being unforgiving. And I've learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply surviving, living well, refusing to be a victim. I'm still here, still in my house, still managing my own life, my own money, my own choices. They tried to take that from me, and they failed. That's victory enough. But that's not quite the end of this story. Last month I got a call from Thomas Bradford. He sounded excited, which is unusual for a lawyer. "Eleanor, you need to see something. Can you come to my office tomorrow?" When I arrived, he showed me documents, legal papers from California. Vanessa had been arrested for trying to do to her new husband's mother exactly what she'd tried to do to me. Elder abuse, forgery, the whole playbook. But this time, she didn't get away with it. This time, there was no warning, just an investigation, an arrest, and criminal charges. She's facing up to 5 years in prison. "The prosecutors in California want to talk to you," Thomas said. "Your case could strengthen theirs." I thought about it for exactly 10 seconds. Then I said yes. Sometimes mercy is important, but sometimes justice is more important. And Vanessa has had 2 years to change. Instead, she found a new target. She needs to be stopped before she hurts anyone else. The trial is next month. I'll be testifying, telling my story to a courtroom full of strangers, showing the videos, the forged will, everything. It won't be comfortable, but it's necessary, because at the end of the day, this isn't just about me anymore. It's about protecting other elderly people from predators who see them as easy targets, who think age equals weakness. We're not weak, we're survivors, and it's time we started proving it.